Hey, welcome to the garage. Really, I ran across something interesting. I'm helping out Kenny Whitaker of Whitaker Brothers Racing up in Hendersonville. Fellow that I hang out with. I think you've probably seen a couple of cars that I've helped him work on from time to time. A couple of race cars. Mr. Mopar, he likes to be called. 709. So anyway, I'll do it a 454 refresh for him to help him out in a busy section of his time and everything. And by the way, he's open for business. Does transmissions as well. In fact, he's done all of my transmissions for me in the past. I don't know, 15 years? Something like that. Long time I've known this fellow. But ran across something interesting in this refresh that we're doing for his customer on this 454, and I thought it would be interesting for you. It's not too often that many of us actually get to see firsthand what happens when something internally goes wrong inside of an engine, especially one that progresses over time, as happened in this case on that particular engine down there. But I'm not going to show you all of that. Instead, we're just going to talk about the object. Now, this is pistons that comes to mind, and in particular, I want you to notice the piston rings themselves. In this case, we have 3 rings. The first compression ring, which you see right there that I'm twisting, and we have the second ring right below it, and then we have the wiper ring, or the oil control ring. Now, in normal operations, when the combustion gases expand, they will expand across the top of the piston, go down the sides, through the gap, and actually cause the piston rings, which are fairly ductile. Let me show you. Here's one, and what I mean by ductile, as you can see, it will move outward and inward. Now, the combustion gases will get behind this piston ring in these areas right here and force this ring outward, which then provides a combustion seal on the cylinder as the piston does its work going downward. Now, in normal operations, these rings will expand and contract and rotate. They don't stay in any fixed position. That gets to a whole thing about the piston gap, never lining them up. As a lot of people have said, it doesn't matter, they rotate anyway. That's under normal conditions, regular conditions, such as existed for this particular piston. Now, when you get into a situation where you're tired, the vehicle's tired, maybe it's something you don't have a lot of money invested in, or it has lost so much of its value, sometimes you get into situations such as this. Maybe you've heard of collapsed piston rings. See that view right there? Notice that these rings do not move at all. This is how I found 2 of them in the bore on this assembly. Only this one side right here in the upper ring shows some semblance, I don't know if you can see it, some semblance of movement, but not enough. The result of this is a lot of blue oil smoke going out of the exhaust pipe. How does this happen? Very simple. Not changing oil at proper intervals, or possibly not at all. Now, this engine, believe it or not, is actually in good shape. More on that later, but I'm talking about the pistons, and in particular these piston rings, which are collapsed. They are collapsed only in the sense that they are actually welded not metallurgically welded, but basically sludged up. Oil, when it is not changed, oxidizes, creates nitrates and a sludge. When it gets in this very tight area, it will build up a tar-like substance, which over time will lock the piston rings in place, causing an extreme amount of blow-by. I think you can see some of it right there, particularly on that side. That's the side that's really, really locked up. You get an extreme amount of blow-by and oil burning and a big loss of power. The remedy for that is simply to rebuild it. Now, how do we fix this? First thing we got to do is get these rings out, and then we actually have to clean up the lands or the grooves inside this piston. When you do that, that's how it should look. Now, there are ways to do this to achieve this type of finish. What I've done is this handy, back up a little bit, there we go, piston ring groove cleaner that has cutters for practically every size piston groove that's common to the U.S. market and probably a lot of the international markets as well. Now, say, hey, I don't have that. Well, take a piece of the offending piston ring, break it off, and use that edge to go inside your groove and simply scrape it until any and all the debris is gone from the pistons. Then find some solvent cleaner that you might have and give it a good wipe. Now, these are going to get the wire brush treatment. I've got a brass wheel on my bench grinder over there that I'm going to knock all of this off, and on the sides, and prepare these for whenever the piston rings and other components come back. But basically, I want to share that with you folks and let you get a close-up look at the process that takes place when you don't change oil, and the process that you need to take in order to remedy the situation when you are putting your build back together. I'll bring you more on this build on this 454 for Kitty, AJ, and the Whitaker Brothers Garage. So I want you to stay tuned. Like, share, subscribe, you know, all the other good stuff. Thanks for stopping in. Really at the New Books Garage. I'll see you soon. This is just all kinds of wrong. And I thought the other one was bad. Here is yet another reason to change your oil. This was the worst piston of the 8 that the piston rings were in a collapsed state. Now, I put it in my bench top parts washer, soaked it all night, and this morning this is what I come out to. As you can see, the only way that I got this piston ring off, the upper one and the second one, is by breaking them. They are completely dry, caked up with stuff, and of course seized inside the piston ring lands. But what I had to do, and anybody who's been doing this for a while knows, let me see, there we go, I guess, get it. This is one of my tiny screwdrivers that I had to grind off to fit into the 5/16 groove, like you see right there, and I literally had to take my small hammer and tap it into the groove enough to pry up the end of the piston ring, which of course promptly broke. And that's the absolute only way that I was going to get these offensive piston rings out, so I could put it on the bench vise and run the piston ring groove tool to clean out the lands and prepare these for a new set of piston rings. Hopefully the new owner of this engine will treat it a lot better than these were. Yeah. Change your oil, folks.